Probably, yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna just put. It's not letting me.
Want to get too rowdy.
Too rowdy, yeah. Well, we're not a rowdy bunch.
So this screen needs it. I touched it, but it wouldn't let me say got it. There we go.
Bit of an intro.
And this is the handheld mic will hold.
Yeah, you'll be talking about my experience. This one's for the folks virtually, and then this one is for the.
And this is the one that we've got to keep here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good evening and welcome. Here we are at another series with our Holmen Area Historical Society. If you missed it, last year, the Historical Society was recognized as our program partner of the year here at the Community Center, which is pretty neat because it was our first full year of operation. We're excited because membership and participation has gone up for both organizations because of just our willingness to work together. And so we're very grateful for the presence of the Historical Society. They've even recruited some of our folks to be board members because of their involvement here at the Community Center. And whether that's a hard time saying no or just a gung-ho attitude, either way is great. So we appreciate the involvement here by the Holmen Area Historical Society. And today I just want to say welcome once again. My name is Jacob Harton, the Executive Director here at the Community Center. We will be resuming full in-person Historical Society programs very soon. I believe beginning with our April program, which is going to be featuring the National History Day with folks from the middle school, correct?
Right.
So we're very excited for that. And with that, I'll give you Lynn Belliquette with the Historical Society. Thanks for being here.
We're delighted to have you all here. I know many of you are Zooming in and live streaming in, and that makes us very happy. And it also makes us happy that we're going to be able to be seeing you in person starting in April. I am Lynn Belliquette. I'm the program coordinator for the Historical Society. And I am delighted to bring you today someone who has made a difference in our history. As a woman, this is Women's History Month. And we like to recognize the contributions that women in our community have made. And through a number of interesting connections, such as Sylvia's son doing flooring for our secretary, we have her here to speak to us about her career, the changes she's made, and the impact that her serving for us has made. So Sylvia, I'm going to turn it over to you, and maybe you can start with your background that led you on this path.
Okay, well, I better start out thanking everybody for being here. It's good to see faces. I like that, of course, and I appreciate you're even wanting to hear my story. So very grateful. Thank you. My background is, I don't know where to start, and then we're talking about a lot of years here, so I can't start too far back. But my interest in law enforcement came as I was dating a young man that I thought was very handsome in uniform, and that happened to be a guy I ended up marrying. His dad was at the time a sheriff here in Crosse County. And I was not only impressed by the young man in uniform that I had met, but I was also very, very impressed by his father. And listening to him talk about loving, how he loved law enforcement. And he's so far ahead of his time in looking to advancements. And I just so admired him. And he was a great, great police officer and a great sheriff for Crosse County. So as time went on, we got married, and I'm going to skip quite a few years here, but he ended up going with the state patrol, and he was in the state patrol for a while, and at that time, his dad had left the office of sheriff, and the sheriff that came in was Bill Black. And he asked Bill, my husband at the time, if he would be interested in being his undersheriff. And he accepted that, and he took a 2-year leave from the state patrol. And then I went to work in the jail that they called them matrons at that time. I hated that word, matrons. It sounded terrible. But that's what they call it. And so I worked there, and Bill, when he left after the 2 years, I stayed on. And I worked in the jail, and we had about, I don't know, I think maybe 6 or 7 jail matrons that were working. And I always felt that we were doing the same job. We were paid minimum pay. And I just felt it was totally unfair. So I got in touch with a young attorney that had just come into La Crosse at the time, Jim Birnbaum, if you mind your, and he was he was a go-getter. So I said, Jim, let's go for it. And we did. We went for equal pay. Equal pay for the women, because we did exactly the same thing as the guys. And it was a little uncomfortable working under those, you know, a lot of county guys weren't too happy with me either, but they found the whole thing embarrassing. But anyway, we won. That was the main thing. So then from there, I got to see the first female jail sergeant, Dorothy Lord. And she's no longer with us, Dorothy, but she was an awesome sergeant. She was actually got that position, not because she was a female. She got that because she was the best qualified on merit. And I was so proud of her. And so from that, at that time, the sheriffs would run 3 terms, and then they'd have to step down. So what the sheriffs would do in order to stay in office, they would run either their undersheriff or they would run their wives so they could stay in office. And so Bill Black's term was up, and he was going to run the undersheriff. And I didn't see that the changes were being made that we wanted to see happen in the jail and in the department in general. So everyone was kind of looking for a candidate to run. And we talked about, this girls did, and we talked with some of the guys, and everybody was kind of, okay, what do we do now? I asked my husband if he would, and he didn't want to. No, he didn't want to do it. So, well, anyway, to cut that story a little short, I ended up having a meeting with Walter Bolts, who was chairman,
Put it closer to your mouth.
who was, he was very well connected with the Republican Party. And because the undersheriff that was going to run, Fritz Howley, I think that's time it was, he was going to run on the Democrat ticket. And so I ran on the Republican ticket. After I talked to Walter, and he had set up this meeting with, I think there was like 3 or 4 that were party connected and into the politics of it all. And so I said, okay, I'll do it, but I don't know anything about the campaign politics end of it. So he says, I got just the guy. So he got hold of a Greg Sleepek. Greg was a go-getter.
Hey, baby.
Greg.
That's great right
Oh
there.
my God. I haven't seen him for years. Oh, my trail boss. Oh, gosh. That was such a shocker. But anyway, he pushed me through the finish line. I would never got there without him. He's an awesome guy. Love you, Greg.
I love you very much.
Oh, so wonderful. Oh.
So
Yeah.
going, yeah.
Well, I wasn't really running for the office, trying to prove anything as a woman. I really wasn't. I was running because I wanted to see the changes to the department, better service, and just all around corrections that needed to be made in the jail and in the whole division. I was pushing for the merger of the county traffic and the sheriff's department. And I wanted to see juveniles removed from the jail because they were in the all-in-one facility. I wanted to see females out of their own facility. And there were so many areas that I wanted to get done. And I could never have done it without Greg.
Oh, yeah, you could have.
I know when we talked on the phone, you told me the story about your first day
Oh.
at work. Please tell that. That was good.
Oh, yeah. My first day in, after I got sworn in, I went to the office and several board members and committee members and a couple from the personnel office, I think it was. Anyway, they came down to the office and they congratulated me and said, thank you very much. You know, I'm going to work hard. Oh, you don't have to do anything. You can just sit back and just, you know, go out and do your PR, kiss babies, drink coffee or whatever, you know. And I said, well, thank you very much. And they said, everything will just work just real smooth, real well. You know, everything's covered. And I said, yes, it is. I said, and guess who's going to do it? I am. You are not. I said, I will bring things. and I hope you will work with me for the betterment of everybody. But I said, I was elected by the people. I serve the people. And I am going to follow through with what I promised. And that didn't sit very good though. But, and that's what I did. I did not accept their generous offer, but yeah, it was, so they kind of knew where I stood. And we did talk about the merger and that, and we got into that a little bit, which was very difficult to do. The merger was really a hard
Tell the
job.
who you wanted to merge.
I wanted to merge the county traffic and the sheriff's department. They were next door to each other in the same, I mean, you know, like a doorway away, you'd be in the sheriff's department or you'd be in county traffic. County traffic was put in place by the county. And it was kind of their like private police department. The sheriff's department is by Constitution law that it has to be there. So when the merger was going to take place to save taxpayer money and for a better efficiency and everything, they recognized that. They knew it had to be done, but they were waiting to see if they could get a sheriff in that I think they could kind of control a little bit better. And that obviously wasn't me. But when we merged, some of these officers didn't even talk to each other. I mean, the sheriff's department and county traffic there was a good blood amongst many of them. And so it was a kind of a challenge, it was. But on my second day in office, I had a meeting with all of the officers from both departments, said this merger is going to happen. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. On the top of the list is better training, better equipment, and we're going to work together. We're going to be a family. We're going to be a one. And some accepted it very well. Some did not. I worked with the ones that said they would, and I felt the other ones would come along as things progressed. And for the most part, a lot of them did. Some just plain refused to fall to it. And so is there?
Would you talk about some of the other things that happened under you, the changes that you made?
Oh, after the merger, okay, we had that under the belt, and so then I was back on the push of getting the juveniles out of the jail. Back, it never did happen under my administration, but it did happen.
Yep.
And nothing would happen if you don't talk about it. And that's what more of us have to do is if you don't like something, you don't feel it's right, you don't sit good in the gut, say something, do something, get involved. Don't just hope that they'll take care of it because they have the positions, but you've got the power. And so you have to do something. And it's the community that pulls all these things up together. And they're the ones that pull you across the line.
What about the water patrol? Because that was something big.
Oh, yeah, I wanted the water patrol really bad. And I couldn't get it. So what I did is I got volunteers with our boats. And I could assign officers to various duties. So I take the officers that would volunteer their time for the duty, and we trained them. I couldn't get money for training them half the time, but I would always look for funding. There was a lot of state and federal funding now. So I made use of all the funding I could get on all kinds of training, because I really deep down feel that if they have all the equipment in the world, but if they don't have the training, they don't have the knowledge, that's the best tool they can ever get. So training was really at the top of my list. And it wasn't only with the guys on patrol, but it was the investigators, the jailers, it was all the way around. So training became a top priority, and we got a lot of it done. And the next battle I think I had was I wanted to, the guys didn't even have bulletproof vests, and they really needed them, but I couldn't get the monies for the bulletproof vests. So I thought, well, let's do a fundraiser. So a couple of guys in the department, along with their union, their police union, their deputy union, we went for doing a fundraiser. Well, the word got out, and we were doing a fundraiser, and people just were amazed. Well, what the heck? You don't have bulletproof vests? Nope, we don't, but we're going to get them. You know, we're just raising money or having fundraisers. Well, that embarrassed a few people. Wasn't long, we got our bulletproof vests. So where there's a will, there's a way. You know, you just kind of figure it out. That's kind of when you roll with the punches. So
another thing that you did was, probably because of your work as a matron in the jail, you knew that something was needed to support the people that were there. Talk about the jail ministry program.
Oh, that was a great program. And I believe it's still going.
It is
today. Mm-hmm. So that was that, and the boat patrol is still going too, I think. Mm-hmm. But I really felt most of these guys in the jail system, if you don't think it's hard time, it is. I mean, if you take yourself and you think you lose your freedom, you're just a number, you have no control, that's hard. I don't care who it is, that's hard. Some guys make it harder in there than others. But most of these guys are going to go back out into the community. Most of them are locals. So what are we doing to see that maybe they don't come back? And the jail ministry was started because I really felt there was a need for that. It was more than ministry. They had their services by different religious faiths, different pastors, and would come in and do the services. But it dealt with helping some of these guys get in a program where we could, some of them never finished high school. So working on their GEDs, how to manage money, how to just, general things that they needed to know when they got out, how to, do a resume and, all the basic things, along with counseling. We did some counseling. Those that were we felt the need that they needed some extra help in that area that was provided. And it was just, we'd get together and it was just good, a good feeling to see some of these guys actually make a real turnaround in jail. Some of them were a problem when they came in. Some of them, you know, had bad tempers and fights and stuff. And the atmosphere had totally changed once we got the jail ministry. Not only did the jailers make their jobs easier, it was helping a little bit what we could do to see that they didn't come back. We never wanted to see them return, you know, once you let them out, you're hoping they make it on the outside.
I think we're beginning to get an idea of this, but what would you say are the advantages of having a woman's point of view in law enforcement?
Oh, that's, we are seeing now women on patrol and that, but I do not believe, I don't think there is yet a female in the investigative area. That was something I wanted to see way back then, because men and women do look at things differently, you know, and there would be a real asset, I think, to the investigative unit if they had a female on their with their group to work with. I think it would help in a lot of areas, like with your domestic calls, your juvenile calls, just a lot of different areas. That women will look at things that men sometimes overlook. They just don't even, you know, they do work in different ways, not saying one is more important than the other, but collectively, I think it helps very much. And that I would like to see happen yet. I hope I can stick around long enough to see it. But I hope to see a lot of things change. Right now, law enforcement is taking a real hit. You're seeing a lot of good men, good women leaving. It's sad to see, because we need them. You might not be happy with them, but if there's something that you're not happy with, you have to stand up and say so. Changes can be made. Do we need reforms? Yes, in all the areas. But that can be done, but we need law enforcement, otherwise you got chaos. And it's sad to see these officers leave. And I'm so hoping that will make a turnaround. And I'm so hoping that I'll be able to see it. And I'm hoping that young people, well, I shouldn't say just the young, I'm hoping they'll take an interest in law enforcement again and want to get in. We need good men and women. And do we need reforms? We can do that.
You've talked about, with me, one of the areas of reform that you would really like to see, and it has to do with mental health. Could you speak a little bit about that, and perhaps your experience when you were sheriff of dealing with some of the really difficult issues around mental health?
Oh, yes, this has been a problem for as many years as I can, ever since I think where you really start noticing it was in the 60s. A lot of people don't remember this, but they closed a lot of the institutions because there was some bad things going on in them, and they had definitely needed some changes and something done differently than what they were doing. But it swung so far the other way that they closed them all. And the next thing you know, we have no place to go with these people. We have to wait by law for them to either be a danger to themselves or to somebody else, or they have to do something really bad in order to get in. An institution or of any kind to get any help. And they end up in the jails. They don't belong there. We aren't equipped there to take care of them. We're not, you know, we don't have nothing in the jail to meet the, you know, what they really need to, you know, to take care of these people. And a lot of it stems from the drugs too, is another problem, yes. And there too, we need to make some better strides in how to deal with right now we've got the fentanyl problem. Of course, everybody is aware of that. And, it's taking so many lives that we just can't tolerate that. We just can't, as the people that we are in this country, we can't allow that. So I saw what mentally ill does to family. I don't know how many of you remember the shooting at St. Pat's Church, where we lost a priest and several other people, good people of the community. This man was, I don't know why I should say his name, but I mean, he was a very, very sick person. He had, and his family was awesome people. I met his mom and dad, and they were just sick, absolutely sick, because they had tried to help him. They had control of him with making sure he got his meds when he was home with him, but once he turned 18 and out on his own, they lost that control. And without supervision, these people can't make it out there. And you gotta wait till they either explode and hurt themselves or hurt somebody else. It's just backward thinking. It's just right. It don't meet we're a better people than them. So that's got to change, absolutely.
I think that your approach to law and life is really inspiring. And I'm hoping that there will be young women, girls who look at what you're saying and get involved in this area. If you could give us one piece of advice to someone who's looking to get into law enforcement, what would it be?
Well, number one, if you love people, you love the country you live in, you want to help people, you're a perfect candidate. And it don't matter really what age. I want to say the young, but it don't matter what age.
That's true.
Everybody has a talent. Everybody has something to give. And if it isn't law enforcement, volunteer for different things, and like a lot of you actually do. But I mean, you have to get involved. You got to get involved. And if we don't have a strong community, you don't have a strong country. I always compare it to like the communities are the foundation. And in order to have a strong country, you better have a good foundation. So we all have a job to do. This is just the higher up ones, because the power, like I said, is with you.
I can't imagine a better way to end. Yes, and also I think knowing our history and where we've come and where we still need to go is part of this whole process of making a better community. So we really want to thank you for coming this evening and speaking.
May I say something?
I think there may be some questions. And I think Jacob is going to be taking care of those, some maybe on chat and maybe some in the room. So are there any questions or comments?
I would just like to say that Sylvia is an amazing woman.
Okay, the
Before
question
time.
was, how many terms did you serve?
Oh, two.
Here, you can speak.
The third time I ran, politics is a rough game, I want to tell you. The third time I ran, I had Greg had left me and moved. And so I had a lovely guy, Jeffrey Hemker, and he worked so hard. And he was so talented too. He was a very good guy, but it was a tough campaign, very close. And at the end of that election, I decided to run, or we decided to run as a write-in. So we got geared up our horses and we ran again.
Oh, and there's some pictures of that.
Yeah, and it was very close again on a write-in. And so we had a recount. The recount is basic counting, the same thing you got the first time. It's not really, to this day, I do not believe I lost it.
It was that close.
It was that close, and I really don't, but that's not what the Lord wanted. He wanted something else, so I move on. I know, but just to tell you how tough it was tough. I can remember one of my opponents. There were some bad rumors flying, and one of my opponents said to me, I was talking to him after one of our meetings, and I said, I knew that he had started a bad rumor, so I said, well, why did you do that? And he said, well, welcome to the world of politics, and he laughed.
Oh.
And he said, well, he said, it's like you tell it a lie long enough, somebody's going to believe it.
Oh, my goodness.
If it's retracted, some of them are going to hear it. And so the end justifies the means. And this is politics. I don't really like the game too well. But yeah, and it's eventually, my kids stayed strong. And but it did end my marriage.
Oh,
But it was weird is after my left office, my father had moved to Arizona, and he was very ill. And my son and I went to Arizona. I worked at the Juvenile Detention Center in Arizona, and spent a lot of time with my dad, which I would have never done. My son would have never gotten to know his grandpa like he did. And so God knew what he's doing.
I'm reading from, can't see it too well, but I think from the chat, Greg Slapek is saying, you were a woman before your time in law enforcement.
We have another question as well. In what ways were you inspired by your father-in-law?
Okay,
served as sheriff.
the question is, in what ways were you inspired by your father-in-law?
Well, number one was, he was very intelligent as far as knowing the laws. He's a very compassionate person,
This is, his name is
was Bill, William too, yeah.
Bill Boma.
Senior,
Mhm.
and he was a lovable person, he really was, but he was tough at the same time. He had went to the FBI Academy. He had a lot of knowledge behind him and was far more progressive than what this everybody in this area was ready for, I think. But he had a lot of what should I say, knowledge and in all the areas, not only in law enforcement, but he was a very caring and compassionate person at the same time.
Are there any more questions?
Yes. Well, you have a lot of friends, Sylvia.
Oh,
And so we have,
Jacob Hart is running our technology and he's looking at the questions that are coming through on chat.
we have Sylvia, we have Leanne, who says, it's good to see you again. You were good for the county sheriff department.
Okay, Leanne said, good to see you again. You were good for the county sheriff department.
Oh.
And Greg Slappick follows up with, tell us about the Vote the Man campaign slogan used by Bill Black and then Fritz Conley.
Oh, okay. Tell us,
And I have a follow-up question.
this is from Greg Slappick, who was Sylvia's campaign manager. Tell us about the Vote the Man campaign against.
Well, I hadn't, like I had said earlier, I wasn't running because I was a female. It wasn't that I was trying to make that as my top thing and vote for me because I'm a woman, I wasn't like that. But when we got into the campaign, it was like right around October. And when they know, they came out with their sign on my opponents. Billboard or whatever, all their advertising was Vote the Man. Well, that didn't sit too good with a lot of people. So he set the tone and, yeah. But that wasn't my intention at all.
Are there any other questions?
This one says, were you ever on a horse? in the
Oh.
Oktoberfest parade?
Were you ever on a horse in the Oktoberfest parade? And we might even have a picture.
We do have a picture of that.
Many times, I was on a horse when I was 2 years old, so but yeah, in the Oktoberfest, that was fun. That was probably the only real fun thing. But yeah, I love the horse. In fact, it wasn't too long ago, a little kid came up to me and he had a picture of me that his parents, I evidently had given him. And he knew who I was. And he just thought that was so great that he said, is she still living? And I said, who, the horse? And I said, oh yeah, no, that one's gone, that one's gone. But I got 2 daughters that have horses, so I still get the fun times of smelling the horse.
Come on.
This is a comment from Barb, who is Sylvia's daughter, who's here in person. And you should be seeing right now on your screen, Sylvia on her horse. And we'll pass some of these pictures around for people that are here. But Barb was saying the chant. What were they saying, Barb? They were yelling, "Go Sylvia!" Boma. It was, there was so much excitement about her.
And I
candid-
enjoyed every bit of it.
Yeah, and here she is. And the horse looks like a beautiful palomino. Okay, so there's some other pictures coming. Now these are, it looks like your campaign brochures
Yeah, yeah.
that you should see now. And again, we have those here. Now, Sylvia, can you talk? Oh, she was featured in the picture on with her kind of that sassy pose there is the picture that was in the article from the Wisconsin Magazine of History, which is a very prestigious statewide historical society magazine. And Sylvia, maybe you can talk about that badge.
Well, yeah, I don't know if this is the badge, to be honest with you, now that I'm looking at it, that ended up on our uniforms. But when we merged the departments, I asked the officers, any of them that were artistic, if they could do up a badge, a patch for our uniforms. And so the officers did that. And so we picked one out that we felt was the best. And I do not remember who the officer was that did that badge or that patch. And if any of you remember who it was, let me know. I'd love to know because that goes in my memory book.
Greg might know. Do you know, Greg, who designed that patch?
No.
I don't. Can you hear me?
I don't know if you can see it. Those of you that are looking at it.
No,
It's
I
just
don't
a
know who,
little
I don't know who
beautiful
designed
blue
that,
dot
but
right
I-
in the place
I don't
where
recall that.
Crosse County is.
Yeah.
We also have a.
Can you
Walter
hear
Ball
me?
sends his regards.
Oh, Walter Balls. He was the one that encouraged you to run, sending
Yes.
his regards.
Can I tell you a story about
Yes.
that?
Oh,
Hello?
Walter. Oh, my. I saw Walter not too, well, I guess it is quite a while ago. Time does fly, doesn't it? Yes. But Walter was one of my greater supporters. I had so many of them. Fred Barge.
Oh,
He's
yeah, Fred
now
Barge.
gone
Jerome
from us
Gunderson?
too, but he
Can't hear me.
was so supportive. Lorna Sherman, who's headed out my children's, we had a missing children's chapter, and she headed that up for me. And we'd go to schools and different organizations and fairs and stuff and did fingerprinting of children so parents could have an ID and a fingerprint for their children. And there's just so many people that were so helpful and gave of their time. And they'll never know how much I appreciated it, but I truly do to this very day. And some of our work is still there.
Yes, you made a difference. And it's obvious from the people that have come virtually and the people that are here that we appreciate everything that you've done for us.
Oh,
And
it
are
was my
continuing
pleasure.
to do for us.
My pleasure, yeah.
So thank you all for coming and thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I hope I hear from Greg.
Yes, Greg, you're going to have to write to Sylvia.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm sorry.
If you had to do it all over again, would you do it?
Yes. Yes, I would. Some changes I probably would make. But no, I would do it all over again. It's amazing how many different ways your life pulls, but I'm just glad I